very good evening and welcome to the news tonight, your one stop for the day's top stories from India and across the world. Let's start with the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi meets Russian President Vladimir Putin for the annual summit meeting. India signs agreement to build 2 last units of the Kudankulam nuclear power plant with Moscow's help. Union Minister Arun Jaitley allays fears of slowdown in the economy due to demonetization, assures the nation that the Indian Army and the Border Security Force are in a position of strength at the line of control. Afghanistan blames Pakistan for the deadly suicide attack in Kabul, says that the blast, which killed 90 people, was carried out by the Haqqani network with direct help from the ISI. And US President Donald Trump to announce his decision on the Paris climate deal amid speculation that he is preparing to pull out of the landmark deal. First, heading to St. Petersburg, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin are addressing the media.
स्मरण करता हूं कि आज जैसे मैं और राष्ट्रपति पुतिन पीछे खड़े थे, उस समय अटल जी और राष्ट्रपति पुतिन खड़े थे और मैं एक कुर्सी पर बैठ करके अस्ट्राखान राज्य के साथ एक समझौते पर हस्ताक्षर कर रहा था। आज 16 साल के बाद फिर एक बार सेंट पीटर्सबर्ग में मुझे राष्ट्रपति पुतिन के साथ एक प्रधानमंत्री के तौर पर यहाँ आज शरीक होने का अवसर मिला है। हमारा ये और हमारे डेलीगेशन का यहाँ जो गर्मजोशी से स्वागत हुआ, इसके लिए मैं आपका बहुत आभारी हूँ और ये हमारे संबंधों की मधुरता का एक प्रतीक है। फ्रेंड्स, इस वर्ष भारत तथा रूस अपने राजनीतिक संबंधों की 70वीं वर्षगांठ मना रहा है। संस्कृति से सुरक्षा तक हमारे संबंधों की भाषा समान है। जैसे कि रूसी भाषा में कहते हैं, मी गवारिम ना अदनोम याजिके, वी स्पीक इन वन लैंग्वेज। पिछले 7 दशकों के क्षेत्रीय तथा अंतर्राष्ट्रीय उथल पुथल में यदि एक स्थिर सच्चाई है तो वह है भारत तथा रूस के बीच सशक्त संबंध। हमारे संबंधों का मूलभूत आधार आपसी स्नेह, आपसी आदर और एक दूसरे में अटूट मजबूत विश्वास। इस सशक्त आधारशिला पर हमारी सहभागिता तथा सहयोग का चहुमुखी विकास हुआ है। फ्रेंड्स, हमारे संबंधों के विकास के संपूर्ण स्वरूप पर मैंने और राष्ट्रपति पुतिन ने आज विस्तार से बातचीत की है। संबंधों की वर्तमान गति को और तेज करना तथा इसके उज्जवल भविष्य के लिए एक एक्शन प्लान बनाने पर महत्वपूर्ण निर्णय लिए हैं। इसके मद्देनजर आज हमने सेंट पीटर्सबर्ग एक ऐलान किया है, डिक्लेरेशन एडॉप्ट किया है। एक ऐसा डिक्लेरेशन जो कि न केवल दोनों देशों के आर्थिक तथा राजनीतिक स्थिरता का विकास और मार्ग प्रशस्त करेगा, बल्कि वैश्विक उथल पुथल में स्थिरता का एक बेंचमार्क साबित होगा। फ्रेंड्स, आज के इंटरडिपेंडेंट तथा इंटरकनेक्टेड विश्व में बढ़ते आर्थिक सहयोग संबंधों के विकास के महत्वपूर्ण ड्राइवर है। हमारे आर्थिक संबंधों में तीव्र प्रगति मेरा तथा राष्ट्रपति पुतिन का एक अहम साझा उद्देश्य है। सेंट पीटर्सबर्ग अंतर्राष्ट्रीय आर्थिक फोरम में भारत का गेस्ट कंट्री के रूप में शामिल होना तथा मेरा इस फोरम में प्लेनरी में कल होने वाले वक्तव्य दोनों देशों की अर्थव्यवस्थाओं को और समीप लाने का कारण बनेगा। इन्हीं प्रयासों के चलते द्विपक्षीय निवेश में काफी तीव्र प्रगति हुई है तथा हम 2025 तक 30 बिलियन यूएस डॉलर्स के निवेश के लक्ष्य की उपलब्धि के समीप है। आर्थिक संबंधों की गहनता का एक मुख्य आधार है एनर्जी कोऑपरेशन। न्यूक्लियर, हाइड्रोकार्बन तथा रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी इसके प्रमुख भाग है। मुझे खुशी है कि आज कुडनकुलम 5 तथा 6 के फाइनलाइजेशन द्वारा हमारे दोनों देशों के बीच द्विपक्षीय ऊर्जा सहयोग और घनिष्ठ होंगे। परमाणु ऊर्जा के क्षेत्र में भारत तथा रूस परस्पर लाभ से आगे तीसरे देशों से भी अपना सहयोग बढ़ा रहा है। हमारे व्यापारिक तथा वाणिज्यिक संबंधों के विकास में प्राइवेट सेक्टर का एक महत्वपूर्ण रोल है। इस संदर्भ में हम दोनों देशों के प्राइवेट सेक्टर्स को एक प्रोएक्टिव भूमिका के लिए निमंत्रित करते हैं। हमारा यह भी मानना है कि दोनों देशों के बीच अधिकाधिक फिजिकल तथा इंस्टीट्यूशनल कनेक्टिविटी भी आर्थिक संबंधों की मजबूती के लिए अनिवार्य है। इस संदर्भ में इंटरनेशनल नॉर्थ साउथ ट्रांसपोर्ट कॉरिडोर के अंतर्गत हमारा सहयोग हमारी सहभागिता को एक महत्वपूर्ण दिशा प्रदान करेगा। आने वाली यूरेशियन इकोनॉमिक यूनियन के साथ एफटीए नेगोशिएशंस भी हमारे आर्थिक सहयोग को और बल देंगे। साइंटिफिक, इंडस्ट्रियल तथा तकनीकी सहयोग हमारे ओवरऑल आर्थिक सहयोग का एक बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण हिस्सा है। इसके द्वारा उत्पन्न लाभ हमारे समाज तथा अर्थव्यवस्थाओं को सुदृढ़ता तथा समृद्धि प्रदान करेंगे। ब्रिज टू इनोवेशन का हमारा साझा प्रोग्राम दोनों देशों के युवा वैज्ञानिकों, स्टार्टअप्स के लिए तथा युवा एंटरप्रेन्योर्स के विकास में अत्यंत मददगार सिद्ध होगा। यह हमारे युवा पीढ़ियों के भविष्य को इनोवेशन इकोनॉमी की अपॉर्चुनिटी के साथ सीधा जोड़ेगा। उम्मीद है कि इसके द्वारा जॉब सीकर्स जॉब क्रिएटर्स में परिवर्तित होंगे। इस माह के अंत में दोनों देश पहली बार द्विपक्षीय साइंस तथा टेक्नोलॉजी कमीशन का आयोजन करेंगे। मुझे विश्वास है कि यह हमारी साइंटिफिक तथा टेक्निकल कोऑपरेशन को एक नई ऊंचाई पर ले जाएगा। फ्रेंड्स, भारत तथा रूस रक्षा संबंध अत्यंत मजबूत है, सुदृढ़ है। वैश्विक संबंधों का चाहे कोई भी स्वरूप रहा हो, भारत तथा रूस की सुरक्षा पार्टनरशिप ने सदैव दोनों देशों के स्ट्रेटेजिक हितों की रक्षा की निरंतर की है।
Right, so Prime Minister Narendra Modi there, along with Russian President Vladimir Putin, addressing the media, giving out, of course, a joint statement. We just heard the Prime Minister talking about ties with Russia over the years and how India and Russia have not seen any ups and downs when it comes to the relationships. There were, of course, a lot of things that were discussed today in that very closed-door meeting that took place between both the leaders, and now, of course, coming out with that joint statement. We'll keep a track, of course, of what the President Putin says as well. Meanwhile, let's quickly go across to our correspondent as well, Akhilesh Suman, in fact, joining us from the newsroom, who's, of course, been tracking the entire Europe tour, Akhilesh, of Narendra Modi. And this was an important leg of his Europe tour. Everyone had their eyes really on how this relationship was going to be like, considering how in the past few years, in the past few months, in fact, Russia and China, and of course vis-a-vis as well with Pakistan, the relationship, of course, has progressed. India, of course, has been watching that very closely. What is the indication that you're getting, of course, from what took place today? Prime Minister Modi, of course, seeming very sure that the ties with Russia still remain very strong.
Yeah, Tracy, you're right that when we talk about Russia and India, there are so many emotions attached with both the countries. And that is how Prime Minister was trying to showcase his emotions and how India thinks about Second World War, how India thinks about those who were victim of Second World War. And it is true that Russia has fought very bravely against Hitler's forces in the Second World War. So beginning with that, when Prime Minister went into a restricted meeting, there were talks, what my sources are telling me, that there are talks about whole gamut of things, including Pakistan, China, and even American leadership. So Prime Minister wanted an assurance from Russia that whatever be the ups and downs in the world equations, Russia and India should be in the same line as far as defense is concerned, as far as technology is concerned. And what I was getting from President Putin's interview to PTI, he told them that India is the most trusted ally of Russia, and Russia gives the missile technology only to the Indians. And when the 5 agreements were signed, you see that Kudam-Kulam 5 and Kudam-Kulam 6 framework agreement has been signed. That was most awaited, and there were speculations that India may postpone this agreement. So it is done now. So I think Russia has got much more trust to India than it was having 1 month earlier. And other than that, there is intellectual property saving right. You know that Russia and India has tried, and they are working on technology transfer, they are working on joint venture. So there has been hard bargaining between both the countries, and Russia and India have come together to save the intellectual property so that whatever manufacturing is being done in joint sector should not be passed either in complete Indian sector or in any other sector. This is very much important for any joint venture, and India and Russia have done it today. And the third major agreement is about railway. Nagpur and Secunderabad high-speed train. You know that Russia is also one of the major countries who makes high-speed trains. And I think this is again an assurance from India that they are going to increase the trade relations with Russia in fields other than defense. So these are the 3 major agreements, Tracy.
Yes.
And you can understand that what Russia and China has been going for last 1 month or so. When President Putin went to China to join the OR, India was feeling that how China-Russia relationship are going. So I think this summit has given an assurance to India that China-Pakistan relationship is not going to affect India-Russia relationship. And I think this is one of the best things that India can get after this summit.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll leave it there for the moment, Akhilesh. Thanks so much for summing it up really for our viewers here on how crucial this visit has been, of course, for Prime Minister Modi and what he's managed to achieve. We'll, of course, be getting more details as the hours progress really into what exactly were many of those agreements that were signed today. But for the moment, thank you for joining us. Continuing, of course, with more news and, of course, back home, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley allayed the impact of demonetization on economic growth and stressed that the current growth of 7 to 8% was fairly reasonable by Indian standards. He also clarified that the RBI will give an accurate figure of defunct notes returned once the counting process gets completed.
A day after government data showed the economy in slowdown, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley dispelled concerns that it was due to demonetization. Against a backdrop of 6.1% growth in the fourth quarter this year, Jaitley outlined the achievements of the NDA government in the last 3 years. He said demonetization created a new normal and was a joint step in squeezing out the cash and shadow economy.
There are several factors which can contribute to a GDP in a particular quarter. Some slowdown visible given the global and the domestic situation even prior to the demonetization in the last year. But I do believe that in the current global situation, a 7 to 8% growth, which is at the moment the Indian normal, is a fairly reasonable, by global standards very good, by our own standards fairly reasonable level of growth.
Jaitley reiterated that improving position on non-banking performing assets that were weighing down on the balance sheets of banks is a work in progress and a major challenge.
RBI अपने जितने भी नियम थे उनके तहत एक प्रयास कर रही थी अब एक और कदम हम लोगों ने उठाया है और अगले कुछ दिनों में उसके संबंध में जो कार्रवाई होगी, ये जो हम बैंकिंग रेगुलेशन का जो ऑर्डिनेंस लाए हैं उसके तहत करता हूं कि आने वाले कुछ दिनों में इसमें एक्टिव कार्रवाई उस मैकेनिज्म के तहत होगी।
Jaitley clarified that Civil Aviation Ministry will explore the mechanism to privatize Air India. He was also confident that GST will usher a revolution in tax administration. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in his capacity as Defence Minister, Arun Jaitley also assured the country that the Indian Army and the Border Security Force have been dominating the line of control over the past few weeks. He also slammed Pakistan for fomenting cross-border terrorism and scuttling chances of a dialogue.
Indian forces have foiled multiple infiltration attempts by terrorists from Pakistan recently. Defence Minister Arun Jaitley says that this has enabled Indian forces to build pressure on both Indian militant groups and foreign terrorists. Jaitley also stressed that India has taken steps to ease tensions with Pakistan. But the neighbour responded by orchestrating attacks at Indian Army bases in Pathankot and Uri.
At the swearing in of the government, when the SARC neighbours were invited, Pakistan Prime Minister was invited. Our Prime Minister dropped in at Lahore at a social function in Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's family, were all steps intended to ease the tension. But each one of these has been responded by, let us say, a Pathankot or an Uri, or even the mutilation of 2 of our soldiers. And therefore, that environment which must exist for a talk has been successfully prevented by Pakistan.
The Defence Minister also dismissed reports of mounting unrest and public anger in Kashmir and said that the situation on the ground was mostly normal. His assertion came in the wake of clashes between security forces and the public in Kashmir.
फील्ड में स्थिति जो इंप्रेशन मिलता है उसकी तुलना में काफी सामान्य है। हम लोग भी 3 दिन जीएसटी की मीटिंग में वहां रहकर आए हैं। दक्षिण कश्मीर के कुछ जिलों के अंदर स्थिति चुनौतीपूर्ण थी। उसके अलावा बाकी कश्मीर में श्रीनगर वगैरह बिल्कुल सामान्य थे।
The army has gunned down a number of militants in the past few weeks, including top Hizbul Mujahideen terrorist Sabzar Bhatt. However, there have been allegations of human rights violations as well. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
Staying with that story, at least 5 Pakistani soldiers were killed and 6 others injured in retaliatory firing by the Indian Army in Kashmir's Bhimber and Batal sector on Thursday. Earlier in the day, 2 militants were killed and 2 soldiers injured in an encounter in Kashmir's Sopore area. 2 AK-47 rifles, 5 magazines and 107 live bullets were recovered from the slain militants. According to police, the militants were behind a grenade attack on a police party near a bank in Sopore on Wednesday. In another development, Pakistan violated ceasefire by shelling forward posts along the LOC in Rajouri and Poonch districts. A General Engineering Reserve Force labourer was killed, while 2 others, including a BSF Jawan, were injured. Army Chief General Bipin Rawat is in Srinagar reviewing the security situation in the valley.
It was retaliated by a fire, so police also returned the fire. These security forces returned the fire. As a result, these 2 terrorists, Azaz and Basharat, got eliminated. Both are local terrorists and Hizbul Mujahideen से ताल्लुक रखने वाले हैं।
इस ऑपरेशन के दौरान हमारे को कॉर्डन करने के बाद कारगर फायर आया, जिसके अंदर हमारे 2 जवान घायल हुए। जो मिलिटेंट्स अंदर थे उनको कई बार मौके दिए सरेंडर करने के लिए, लेकिन इसके बावजूद हमारे पे भारी मात्रा में फायर डाली गई और इस फायर के जवाब में हमने उन दोनों टेररिस्ट को, मिलिटेंट्स को मार गिराया।
In other news, ahead of the assembly elections in Karnataka, Congress is shifting focus to the southern states. Party Vice President Rahul Gandhi today reached Telangana for a 3-day visit to the 3 southern states. The party has also made the Chief Minister the party's face for the election.
President Amit Shah visited Telangana. Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi arrived in the state to counter the BJP's outreach campaign. Addressing a public meeting that was termed Telangana Praja Garjana, Rahul Gandhi highlighted the failures of the TRS government led by KCR.
Had a dream of Telangana, who had dreamed of a particular type of Telangana are not getting what they had dreamed of. So we would like to give them that.
Apart from Telangana, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh are also on Rahul Gandhi's schedule during his 3-day visit to the southern part of the country. Rahul will attend the birthday celebrations of DMK Patriarch Karunanidhi on 3rd June and then attend a public rally next day in Guntur, along with Akhilesh Yadav and left leaders who are demanding special status for Andhra Pradesh. Seeking an early advantage in the southern states, the Congress has announced its election plan for Karnataka for the next year while accommodating all senior leaders. According to the party, the next assembly elections in Karnataka will be fought under the leadership of Chief Minister Siddaramaiah. G. Parmeshwara will continue to be the PCC president but will resign from the cabinet. S.R. Patil will be the working president of Karnataka Pradesh Congress Committee. D.K. Shivkumar has now been made the chairman of the campaign committee, and K.H. Muniappa has been included in CWC as a special invitee. The Congress, which used to have a large footprint in southern states once, now rules in only one, Karnataka. The party was routed in Andhra and Telangana after the state was bifurcated and has been marginalized in Tamil Nadu for a long time. Vishal Dahiya, Rajya Sabha TV.
International news: and US President Donald Trump will announce his decision on the Paris Climate Treaty on Thursday. Withdrawing from the Paris Agreement is one of Trump's biggest electoral promises. The much-awaited announcement will have a long-term impact on the fight against climate change, particularly in countries like India and China.
US President Donald Trump will announce his decision on the Paris climate deal on Thursday amid strong indications that he's preparing to pull out of the landmark deal, possibly weakening the fight against global warming. Trump on Wednesday said that abandoning the Paris Climate Agreement would be a victory for the American economy, but added that he was hearing from people on both sides.
You're going to find out very soon. I'm hearing from a lot of people both ways.
Leaders across the globe have urged the American president to take climate change seriously, with many also warning Trump that a pullout won't be easy. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker has said it was the duty of Europe to stand up to Trump if he decided to pull out of the accord.
Aber ich bin dagegen, dass wir uns wie Vasallen der Amerikaner benehmen. Wenn der amerikanische Präsident das würde in den nächsten Stunden oder Tagen tun, aus dem Pariser Abkommen aussteigt, dann ist das die Pflicht Europas zu sagen, so geht das nicht. Da geht es nicht nur um die Zukunft der europäischen Menschheit, es geht vor allem um die Zukunft der Menschen anderen.
We continue to lobby, we continue to make our case very strongly that we believe in the Paris Accord, that it's a good thing, that we value, that the world values American leadership in this.
Hours after Trump said this, China reiterated its commitment to the deal and urged other nations to do so. Chinese and EU leaders will issue a joint statement on Friday saying the climate deal was imperative and more important now than ever.
保持和平 推动合作，实现稳定。我们也愿意为地区的稳定和世界的和平贡献。
A US pullout could deepen a rift with its allies and would put the country in league with Syria and Nicaragua as the world's only non-participants in the 195-nation accord. Besides global opposition, Trump is also under pressure from corporate CEOs, Democrats and some fellow Republicans who are in favor of keeping the United States in the accord.
I think it would be a very damaging thing for his legacy. I hope that he thinks twice about it. I hope that he listens to people on the other side. I hope he stays in with the same target, but at least that he stays in even if the target needs to be reviewed in his judgment.
It is troubling, I think, for the global community to see the swings in U.S. position on climate change. And, you know, if the Trump administration reneges on not just the Paris Agreement, but also the UNFCCC, he's going to make it that much more difficult for a future administration to get back into a leadership role.
In the deal signed in 2015 in Paris, the United States had committed to reduce its emissions by 26% down to 28% by 2025. However, Trump had blasted the accord during his 2016 presidential campaign, even calling global warming a hoax aimed at weakening U.S. industry. Trump had also refused to endorse the accord at the recent G7 summit in Italy, saying he needed more time to decide. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Afghanistan's intelligence agency has blamed Pakistan for the deadly suicide attack in Kabul on Wednesday. in which close to 90 people were killed. According to Afghanistan's National Directorate of Security, the blast was carried out by the Haqqani network with direct help from Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence, or the ISI. The explosion in Kabul killed 90 civilians and foreign nationals and injured over 460 in one of the worst terror strikes in the war-torn country. After the intelligence reports blaming Pakistan, Afghanistan has also cancelled the proposed home and away cricket fixtures with Pakistan. Pakistan, in fact, was supposed to play its first T20 match against Afghanistan in Kabul later this year. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani condemned the attack and has termed it a war crime.
د کابل ښار د دننۍ تورستي پیښې په اړه څه له امله یې زموږ یو شمېر هیوادوال شهیدان او ټپیان شول. عامه تاسیساتو
And now let's take you through some more international news updates in Global Buzz. 11 soldiers were killed and 8 others injured when Philippines Air Force dropped a bomb on its own soldiers in Marawi city, where it has been fighting Islamic State militants. Authorities claim that the errant airstrike was due to a fog of war, which made them take a wrong call. The bomb was dropped on soldiers who were locked in a close-range combat with the terrorists holed up in buildings. Over 100 people have been killed in the gun battles which began last week. The Trump administration on Thursday rolled out a new questionnaire for United States visa applicants worldwide. Under the new procedures, consular officials can request all prior passport numbers, 5 years' worth of social media handles, and 15 years of biographical information. The new questions, part of an effort to tighten vetting of visitors to the US, was approved on the 23rd of May by the Office of Management and Budget. A new opinion survey has revealed that British Prime Minister Theresa May's Conservative Party's lead has fallen by 3% just a week before voting begins. The data showed May's lead has collapsed from 24 points since she surprised both rivals and financial markets on the 18th of April by calling the elections. Opposition Labour polled 39% against the Conservatives is 42%. And finally, some sports. And at the French Open, world number 1 Andy Murray and Stan Wawrinka reached the third round of the men's singles. While Murray came from a set down to beat Slovakian Martin Klizan 6-7, 6-2, 6-2, 7-6, world number 3 Wawrinka defeated Ukraine's Alexander Dolgopolov 6-4, 7-6, 7-5 in the second round match. 7th-seeded Marin Cilic also moved to the third round after straight sets victory over Konstantin Kravchuk of Russia. Juan Martin Del Potro and John Eisner also progressed to the next round. Potro advanced into his Spanish opponent Nicolas Almagro, retired due to injury on the third set. Eisner, meanwhile, hardly faced any resistance in his victory over Italian Paolo Lorenzi.
The left knee injury.
In the women's singles, 5th-seeded Alina Svitolina came back from a set down to beat Svetlana Pirenkova of Bulgaria 3-6, 6-3, 6-2. 9th-seeded Agnieszka Radwanska also had to toil hard for her 6-7, 6-2, 6-3 win over Alison van Uytvanck of Belgium. However, 28th-seeded Barbara Streikova lost to Alice Cornet of France in the second round. That's it on the news tonight. Thanks for joining us.